She told me not to worry, that it was just lunch with an old colleague. But something in her voice cracked when she said it, so I followed her. And what I saw didn't just change our marriage. Changed me. My name is Ethan Riley. I'm 48 years old and I live in Arlington, Virginia. Cybersecurity consultant by trade, Army veteran by history, father by choice, husband by belief. Or at least I used to be all of those things without question. Grace and I met in our 20s. I remember the first time I saw her at a mutual friend's engagement party in Baltimore. She was wearing this green dress that brought out her eyes, standing under string lights, laughing with someone I couldn't see. There was something about the way she held her wine glass, like she didn't quite trust it not to shatter. I was drawn to that, vulnerability disguised as poise. We got married when we were 27. Bought a modest 3-bedroom house just outside the city. Nothing fancy, but close to the schools we liked. A year later, our son Noah was born. He was colicky for the first 6 months. Grace would sing to him while I paced the floor with him on my shoulder, trying to memorize every creak in the wood. That was 18 years ago. Now Noah is a senior in high school, plays center back on his soccer team, talks about colleges in California like they're just around the corner. He still hugs me when he walks through the door, which is more than I expected at 17. We have a golden retriever named Jasper who thinks he's still a puppy, though his joints disagree. Grace works in public relations. She moved from nonprofit work to corporate campaigns a few years ago. She said she wanted a new challenge, and I believed her. I always believed her. Our routine was tight. Weekday mornings, I walked Jasper while Grace got ready. Noah left first, always with a piece of toast hanging from his mouth. I'd pack Grace's coffee in a travel mug and leave it on the counter. She'd kiss my cheek and say, "Thanks, babe." But the last few weeks, she'd stopped doing that. At first, I told myself it was work stress. She'd mentioned a new account, something with high stakes, a luxury brand going through some kind of scandal. She started taking more calls behind closed doors. Her laptop, once a fixture on the kitchen island, now followed her to the upstairs office. Her laughter, once easy and loud, became tight, clipped. Smiles didn't linger. Then came the phone habits. She used to leave it charging on the nightstand. Now it was always in her pocket or face down next to her plate. Notifications silenced. Once, I picked it up to hand it to her and saw the lock screen light up. Meeting rescheduled. M. Just a letter. No name. Who's M? I asked as casually as I could. She shrugged. Matt, from work. And maybe it was nothing. But that night, she wore perfume to dinner, even though it was just takeout and Netflix. And she checked her phone twice during the movie, smiling faintly. A week later, she mentioned lunch. Just lunch, she said, putting on her coat. With Matt. We're catching up about the campaign. I nodded, said nothing, but my stomach tightened. She didn't kiss me on the cheek. Just waved, said, "See you later." Jasper tilted his head as the door closed. I looked at him and said, "Stay here." Then I grabbed my keys. I didn't follow her like in the movies.
No dramatic telling, no tinted sunglasses.
I knew her routes, knew the way she drove. I gave her 10 minutes, then headed downtown. There are only so many places you take clients when you're trying to impress without being obvious. She told me lunch. I found her at a wine bar. It had wide windows and white tablecloths. Not the kind of place you grab a Caesar salad and iced tea. I parked across the street and stayed in the car. Watched as she laughed too hard, touched his forearm twice. He was tall, younger by a few years maybe. Button-down shirt, no tie. He leaned in when he spoke. I watched for 27 minutes. She didn't check her phone once. When the server brought the check, she reached for it, but he covered her hand with his. She didn't pull away. I drove home. I didn't wait to see how it ended. That part didn't matter. That night, she came home smiling. "How was your day?" she asked, towing off her shoes. "Fine," I said. "Just worked." She kissed Noah on the head, told him she missed him. At dinner, she said nothing about lunch. Just talked about a new client and how the agency wanted to pitch something fresh. Her phone stayed in her purse. Her laughter was back. I excused myself early, said I had a report to finish. That night, I stared at the ceiling again. Jasper curled at my feet. Outside, the wind picked up. Something had shifted, and I couldn't sleep. The thing about doubt is it doesn't scream, it whispers. Creeps in through silence and unasked questions. It lingers in glances, in the pauses between sentences. And once it takes root, it doesn't let go. The morning after Grace's lunch, I got up before dawn, made coffee, let Jasper out. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional stir of wind outside. Grace came down a little after 6, still smelling faintly of that same perfume. The same one she wore yesterday, the one she hasn't worn in months. "Morning," she said, yawning into her hand. "Morning," I replied. She poured coffee, checked her phone. No eye contact, no mention of the wine bar. Just, "Matt might swing by the office later. We're finalizing the rollout plan." I nodded. Noted the familiarity in her tone, the way she said his name without hesitation. That day, I logged into our cell phone provider's dashboard. It wasn't difficult. We shared the account. Grace had over 200 texts from one number in the last 10 days. The contact name was just M. Late night texts, a few just after midnight. I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking next to the call log. One call lasted over an hour, 11:12 p.m. to 12:28 a.m. Grace had been in bed with her back to me, phone screen hidden. I didn't confront her, couldn't, not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. She began going to the gym again. Not the one near our house, but a boutique place downtown she said had better classes. 3 evenings a week, like clockwork. She came back flushed, hair damp, but not from sweat. She showered as soon as she walked in. Noah asked once, "Is Mom training for something?" "No idea," I said, eyes on my laptop. Then there was her laptop. She changed her password, said it was a new work policy. She used to leave her emails open, tabs visible. Now everything locked the moment she stepped away. I began cataloging these moments. Not obsessively, not yet, but methodically, like I used to do on deployment, noting patterns. You don't survive in combat by guessing. You observe. You wait. One afternoon, while she showered, I checked the laundry. There was a faint scent on her blouse. Not mine. Not hers. Cologne I didn't recognize. Something woodsy, with a citrus edge. I stood there in the dim light of the laundry room, the fabric in my hand, my mind silent. I started driving past her supposed gym after work. Once, I watched her walk past the entrance, glance both ways, and then turn down a side street. I didn't follow that time, just sat there with Jasper in the back seat, watching the streetlight flicker. It was around then that I remembered Matt. She'd mentioned him once before, briefly. A new team lead, came from Chicago. Divorced, no kids, good at what he does. That was all she said. Now, it seemed he was everywhere. One Saturday, Grace asked if I could take Noah to practice. She said she had a spa appointment. I agreed, dropped Noah off, came back early. She wasn't home. Her car was gone. No appointment card on the counter.
No texts.
I waited in the living room, Jasper curled beside me. At 4:13 p.m., the garage door opened. She walked in, startled to see me. "Hey," she said too quickly. "Thought you'd be out longer." "Canceled my meeting," I said. "How was the spa?" "Relaxing," she said, walking straight to the stairs. Later that night, I checked the bank account. No charges.
No es pa.
But there was a debit at a coffee shop 2 blocks from Matt's building. I didn't sleep. I tried to talk to her. Tried to be calm. You seem distracted lately, I said one evening as we did dishes. Work, she replied. It's been non-stop. You sure it's just work? She glanced at me. What else would it be? You tell me. She dried her hands, turned to me. Ethan, please. Not tonight. And that was that. The next day, I went to my friend Nate. He owns a small PI firm outside Alexandria. We served together. I told him everything. Gave him Matt's name, Grace's schedule, the car make and model. You want surveillance? He asked. No, not yet. Just patterns. Locations. Pictures if they're public. He nodded. You sure about this? I need to know, I said, without breaking what's left. Nate didn't ask more. While he worked, I started checking our home cameras. Grace never noticed them. They were part of our security system, silent and cloud-stored. I reviewed timestamps, saw her leave in gym clothes and return in different outfits. Sometimes her makeup looked fresh, like she reapplied it before coming back. One day, she left in flats and returned in heels. On Tuesday, the PI emailed me a photo. Grace and Matt outside a restaurant, not holding hands, but close. Too close. Noah was asleep when I opened the file. Jasper shifted at my feet. I stared at the photo for a long time, then saved it in a folder named June. I didn't confront her. I just nodded quietly when she said she was going to yoga, and I whispered namaste under my breath when the door closed. I was building a picture, piece by piece, and I was almost done. By the time certainty arrives, it doesn't feel like a revelation. It feels like confirmation of something you've already mourned. I didn't explode. That would have given her too much. Too much power, too much of me. I learned long ago in Afghanistan, during missions where quiet decisions meant survival, that noise is a luxury. Real resolve is silent, steady, like a glacier cutting a mountain. Grace kept smiling. She kept performing our marriage like it was community theater, putting on the role of a loving wife while keeping a whole other script hidden. But now I was in the audience and I knew the ending. The PI sent me a second batch of photos. Grace and Matt, parking lot behind his office. She leaned into the car. He touched her cheek. Another shot, her hand on his chest. Not a handshake, not a friend. It was the kind of touch you use when you think no one is watching. It was intimate.
Familiar.
I stared at the photo for an hour. I forwarded it to a private email. I created a new digital folder, Endgame. The next phase was logistics. I began with the house. Grace thought the mortgage was jointly held. It wasn't. Years ago, after refinancing, I'd taken advice from a friend and quietly consolidated assets. The deed was in my name. She never noticed. I paid the bills. She handled groceries, the PDA, and seasonal decor. I met with my attorney, Kristen Hart, the kind of woman who wore steel in her eyes and didn't blink twice at betrayal. I laid out everything. The prenup, the photos, the timeline. Do you want a file now? She asked. No, I said. I want to make it hurt first. Legally. Quietly. She raised a brow. Asset freeze. And postnup. She wants to play modern? Let's define modern. Kristen drafted a post-nuptial agreement under the guise of financial clarity. I presented it to Grace one Thursday evening while Noah was at a friend's. Said it was for tax purposes, asset protection. These days, couples sign these to avoid future confusion, I explained, sliding the papers across the kitchen table. You said transparency matters. She hesitated, but not long. The guilt made her compliant. She signed. Meanwhile, I tracked patterns. I installed a GPS device in her car. Nothing flashy. Something I could monitor from my phone. 3 times in a week, she worked late and parked in the same residential area downtown, an address I traced to Matt's condo. On the 4th night, she came home late, humming. She dropped her bag, kissed me on the cheek. The scent of a different soap clung to her neck. "Sorry," she said. "The campaign's killing me." "You look good," I replied, glowing. She smiled and went upstairs. Never asked why I was sitting in the dark. That weekend, I planted a bug in her car. Audio only. I knew it skirted legality, but I wasn't going to use it in court. I wanted confirmation. Real words. 2 days later, I had it. "You know I hate lying to him," she said, laughing. "Matt, then don't lie. Tell him it's over." "Grace, it's not that easy. There's Noah. Matt, he's almost grown. And you said Ethan stopped noticing you years ago." "Grace, that doesn't mean I want to destroy him. I just want something different." "Matt, we are different." I stopped the audio there. I didn't need to hear the rest. I began to withdraw. No big change, just subtle things. I stopped leaving her coffee on the counter, stopped asking about her day. I smiled less, stared more. Grace noticed. "You okay?" she asked one night. "Just tired," I said. "Work's been intense." She offered a shoulder rub. I let her, but the warmth was gone. I started sleeping in the guest room. Said her tossing kept me up. She accepted it too quickly. Noah didn't say much, but I caught him watching us. He was perceptive, always had been. One night, I caught him standing at the foot of the stairs, listening. "You and Mom fighting?" he asked. "No," I said. "Not fighting. Just quiet." "Yes, quiet." He nodded, went back to his room. He didn't bring it up again. A month after I installed the GPS, I got the final proof. Video. They didn't see the camera above the parking structure. Or maybe they didn't care. Grace wore a blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. Matt had his hand on her lower back. They kissed. Not a quick peck. Something slow, certain. They got into his car. Drove off. I saved the footage. Backed it up to 2 drives. Then I called Kristen. "We move next week," I said. "On our anniversary." Message. "Yes, she'll understand the symbolism." "Do you want to be there when she reads the papers?"
No.
Let her come home to silence. And clarity. Kristen didn't ask more. The last thing I did was write a letter. Not a rant, just truth. I put it in an envelope. Left it on the nightstand next to where her phone usually rested. I walked through the house that morning. Took in every photo, every cushion, every pair of shoes left near the door. I fed Jasper. Gave him a long scratch behind the ears. Then I locked the door behind me and drove away. That night, she would come home to an empty house. No husband, no note on the counter, just silence. And consequences. She wanted freedom. Now she had it, and I had peace. But not before I burned every illusion to the ground. Quietly, completely. The divorce papers were delivered on September 12th. 11 days after our 20-year anniversary. I chose that date carefully. The night before, I checked into a hotel an hour away. Not to hide, I had nothing left to hide. It was simply to make a point. I wanted the silence of an empty house to speak louder than any confrontation. Kristen had arranged for a process server. Grace would come home after work to find the house dim and quiet. The kitchen table set with only one thing, a manila envelope. Inside, the divorce papers and the letter. I didn't hear from her that night. No calls.
No texts.
The next morning at 7:42 a.m., a message came through. "Ethan, we need to talk. Please." I didn't reply. An hour later, "You can't just vanish. I deserve a conversation." Then, "Did you plan this? On our anniversary?" What the hell is wrong with you? I muted the thread. The following evening, I returned to the house. I knew she'd been there. Her scent still lingered in the bedroom. But she was gone again. Noah was at his friend's. He hadn't said much when I told him we were separating. Just nodded, then asked, "Are you okay?" "I will be," I said. Eventually. He didn't ask why. Maybe he already knew. Grace came by 2 days later. She knocked like a guest. I opened the door and stepped aside. She stood in the hallway, clutching her purse like it held answers. Her eyes were red. Her voice trembled. "You blindsided me." I said nothing. After 20 years. Still, I said nothing. She walked into the living room, looked around like it was unfamiliar. "We were working through things," she said, her voice rising. "We were just in a rough patch. You were in someone else's bed," I said calmly. She flinched. "It wasn't serious. It lasted 3 months." Her mouth opened, then closed. "You were spying on me." "No," I said. "I was observing. There's a difference." She dropped onto the couch. "I didn't want this." "You wanted freedom," I replied. "This is what it looks like." "Ethan, I made a mistake. A horrible mistake. I thought I needed something new. I thought I was missing out. But the moment I saw those papers, I realized. You realized you lost control." She stopped, blinked. "That's not fair."
No, grafe.
"What wasn't fair was expecting me to stay silent while you made me a supporting character in your secret life." She began to cry, quiet at first, then louder. I waited. "We can fix this," she whispered. "Please, I'll do anything. Counseling. Separation instead of divorce. I'll quit my job if that's what you want." "I don't want a hostage," I said, "and I don't negotiate with traitors." She stood up suddenly. "I didn't betray you." I tilted my head. "No, it was just confusion. It wasn't like I stopped loving you. Love without loyalty is convenience," I said. "And I don't fund convenience." She stepped toward me. "You can't mean that. We built a life. And you dismantled it." She reached for me. I stepped back. "Don't," I said. She froze. "Is it because of someone else?" she asked. "No," I said. "It's because of you." The next week, she tried to stall the divorce. Filed a motion to delay. Kristen crushed it within 48 hours. She begged, then bargained, then threatened. "I'll tell Noah it was your fault." "Noah's not stupid," I said. "Try it. See how he looks at you after." She stopped trying. The settlement was clean. The postnup ensured she left with only what she brought in. She fought it, lost. Her lawyer, a fresh-faced idealist, suggested she take me to court for emotional distress. Kristen laughed. "Your client started an affair and was granted leniency. She won't want a judge involved." They folded. I kept the house, the car, the investments. She kept her job, her wardrobe, and her reputation if she was lucky. A month after the divorce finalized, she called. "I know you won't answer," her voicemail said, "but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For all of it. I was weak. I was foolish. I hope you find someone who sees you, who values you." I deleted it. I haven't dated. Not yet. I go on long walks with Jasper. I read more. I finally took that solo trip to Montana I'd been planning for years. Noah visits on weekends when he's home from college. We talk. Really talk. He asked once, softly, "Do you hate her?" "No," I said. "I grieved her. That's not the same." He nodded. Grace still emails sometimes. Always some variation of "hope you're well" or "thinking of you." I never reply, because she's not writing to me. She's writing to the man she used to have. And that man doesn't live here anymore. I stood in the living room last week, the light slanting through the blinds just right. Jasper at my feet, Noah's laughter still echoing faintly from the night before. And I thought, this is what peace feels like. Not justice, not revenge, just silence and freedom.